All right, and we are back with another episode of What the Shell podcast. Uh, as you can see, I am riding the podcast train solo dolo tonight. My co-host, Mr. Ed Kamara, is unable to make it as he's being a father, and that definitely comes first before the podcast. So shout out to him and his beautiful twins that were born on Tuesday. And so now he has a family of 5 to care for. And so prayers up to him and his family as we get ready for this podcast. We're excited. We're back live after our pre-recorded episode last week. And we got a fun episode today. We've decided to venture a little bit out of our normal turtle nerd type guest. And so it's funny that I actually came across this guy on Instagram because of his turtles. And I actually kept following him because of his other animals he keeps. He actually doesn't post his turtles all that often. And whenever I want to go look at him, I have to scroll back like a year. But I came across his terrapins that he had on his page and been following him ever since. And since we're both Florida guys, every so often I come across him and, we chat, and you'd think that we met in person already, but we actually haven't. We have plans for that, but, he keeps it real, I keep it real, and we have a good time. So I actually didn't know his real name until like 3 days ago. But yeah, I'm going to just keep it by Reptile Dons until he pronounces his name correctly. So let's go ahead and add him to the podcast. We got Reptile Dons. What's going on, man?
What's going on, guys?
All right, man. I need you to go ahead and pronounce your name. Jessel. There we go, bro. I didn't want to say it. All right, sweet, bro. It's been a long time coming, man. You've definitely promised to hop on, and you haven't disappointed. I will admit something, man. We have some podcast competition tonight. All right. They might venture in a little later, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Turtle Room.
I'm not, no.
All right, so it's an organization that works a lot with turtles. They have a podcast that's probably wrapping up right about now with a future guest that I have booked. First Lady of Texas Turtles. It's pretty cool. Okay. I don't know if you come across her on Instagram. You should look her up.
I'm going to look her up. No, I haven't.
I'm an advocate for getting more guests that are women. But also, this will be the first guest that we have that's a Hispanic woman.
Okay, absolutely, man.
So that'd be cool. That's later in the fall, actually. But yeah, man, why don't you go ahead and tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, what you do, and why you might be on the podcast today, man.
Yeah, all right. So you obviously already got my name. I've loved animals pretty much all my life. Let me straighten this out here, bro. Sorry.
You're good, bro.
I've like all of us, man. Since we were children, we've loved animals, and to some degree, it's kind of guided us to what we want to do with our life.
Right.
Right now, this is the first year that I'm actually able to breed reptiles full time.
Okay.
Up until this year, I've been working other jobs, whether it's full-time, part-time jobs. But I guess, this is the ultimate goal for us, man. People, animal lovers, they want to find something that involves animals and
for sure
they can make a living doing it, That's like the best of both worlds. Most people, when you say that to your loved ones, that's kind of where it starts, right? So you have a passion or you have something you're interested in, you start talking to your loved ones, and when you mention animals, I want to say like 99% of your family members or anybody you're talking to, they're going to say veterinary field. So,
right. Or zookeeper, bro.
Or zookeeper, one of the two. And to me, not the same, but they definitely go hand in hand.
Right.
But I did that. I went and I explored the veterinary field. I worked in an exotic animal hospital. I worked with big cats. I worked with domestic cats, dogs.
Did you work with Carol Baskin?
No, I didn't. I didn't meet Carol Baskin. No.
Oh man.
I don't even remember the guy's name that used to bring the cats, man. I want to say his name was Vernon, but I don't remember for sure.
Okay. It
But
was in the
it was
Tampa
an
Bay
experience.
area.
It wasn't a Tampa Bay area. The hospital that I worked at was actually in Safety Harbor,
Okay.
right on Enterprise Road, actually. And they had a like a relationship with either a gentleman or an organization, but the gentleman used to bring the big cats, tigers, cougars, all kinds of stuff, man. I actually got to perform a necropsy on a cougar when I was 18 years old, and we had to use bolt cutters to get his rib cage open because the doctor couldn't open it up.
Oh, that's insane.
Oh yeah,
That's
but
insane.
I mean, so sticking to the topic, I went into that field and I loved working with the animals, but there was a lot of illness, a lot of death when you're in a hospital setting.
Right.
Very rarely do you see the litter of puppies being born or little kittens being born. It's usually something negative. Why people are going to an animal hospital. So
Right.
that kind of wore on me. Just over time, it kind of became depressing to be dealing with that type of just death and illness all the time. It kind of forced me to see that I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to work with life and literally the opposite of what was going on in the hospital. And I didn't really know what kind of setting I'd be able to follow that in. So, I mean, years passed. I went to college, I got a regular job, and I kind of got back into keeping reptiles after a long hiatus. And that turned into this, man. I mean, I originally I was afraid of snakes, man. I studied psychology, like I told you, and I was afraid of even being in the same room as a snake.
Bro, that's
So
me right now.
I'm dead ass, bro. I was super scared. Like, if so, now looking at it, when somebody tells me that they have a fear of snakes, the last thing I want to do is be that guy that's like, pushing the snake up in their face or throwing a
Yeah.
snake around their neck and being like, no, you just gotta feel it. No, that wasn't me, bro. If somebody tried to do that to me, I would have lost it, man. I would have either
Right.
like, I don't know, ran out of the room or like pushed them out of the way. I was that afraid of them. So studying psychology, one of the major focuses is phobias, because it's interesting. A lot of the
Right.
other stuff can get kind of boring, but with phobias, there's a lot of things that people like to apply what they're learning to themselves. So with phobias, that's easy. So obviously being afraid of snakes, I was like, you know what? I'm going to venture out and I'm going to kind of try this. This is a fear that I feel like I can handle on my own. So I went out and I got a snake. I got a boa constrictor. And that was it, bro. After that, I mean, the exposure to it taught me so much. Just kind of diving in and observing and watching me and what I was afraid of. You can break your own fear down. You know what I mean? It's not anything crazy. You got to do it. You got to expose yourself to it. It's called exposure therapy. A lot of people do it with different things. Some people do it with heights, but pretty much you just kind of inundate yourself with whatever the topic is, and then eventually you start kind of peeling off the little illogical factors of your fear and irrational, the things that make up your fear, and eventually you just disassemble it.
I think my fear of snakes will probably not go away until my daughter gets old enough to keep her own snake. She really likes snakes. And so until she's able to like take care of it and I'm able to like slowly but surely, I don't think that fear will go away. And I don't know. It's hard being a reptile guy when people are like, "Oh, you're a reptile guy. Well, look at this snake." I'm like, I'd rather not. I don't mind the lizards. I don't mind turtles. I don't even mind amphibians like frogs. I'm good. Roaches, I don't really mess with. Snakes and spiders, and I don't like flying bugs.
All right, I get that.
So I mean, like butterflies are cool, but I had a bad experience when I was a kid. And I got stung a bunch of times, and so like it's like
No, that'll do it, man. That'll do it. What about the snake are you afraid of?
Bro, this is gonna sound super ignorant, and I'll admit that. I think a lot of my fears come from like movies. Honestly, I've personally never had a bad interaction with a snake, and when I was younger, I'll 100% admit that any snake I came in contact with, I killed.
Yeah.
Like I don't do that anymore. If I found a snake in my backyard, like I'd let it go. But like that was me. Like that's how my household was conditioned. Like the only good snake is a dead snake. You know, like I'm pretty sure I
I mean,
killed a
bro,
glass. I'm pretty sure I killed a glass lizard before thinking it was a snake.
oh man.
Yeah, bro.
Damn, bro.
Like so I'm Hispanic too, and so growing up with my grandmother, there were two things that she kept in the backyard: a machete and a shovel, and both of those things got used. And
Yes,
so
sir.
like that's terrible, but like I mean,
I was raised the same way. I think maybe it has a little bit to do with our culture too, bro. I mean, in Hispanic culture, you don't really see a lot of. It's not really accepted. Serpents are looked at. I mean, a lot of us are
devilish, bro.
Catholic or some type of Christian.
Yep.
So the serpent is already looked at with some sort of a taboo. And I mean, your mom, Hispanic culture, your mom is always there. So super influential. If your mom's afraid of something, I mean, my mom was pretty fearless, bro. A lot of Hispanic women that I know, they're pretty fearless. So as a child, not having that enlightenment, not having that perspective, I was afraid of what my mom was afraid of.
Right.
My dad was afraid of it, you know, not, I wouldn't say afraid, but definitely cautious.
Right.
No, it was something that they didn't want the children to come across and not know how to deal with it. So yeah, they said whatever they had to say to get us away from that.
No, I definitely agree. Like my grandmother was the matriarch of our family, and so I mean, like I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school, elementary and middle school, and so like it was like snakes. That's the devil, and it's funny you said that because a guy I follow on Facebook, I think he was doing a podcast today, and one of the things he asked were, "What are like myths or tales that you've heard about snakes?" And that's what I put. I put that snakes represent the devil, and if you come across one, they're bad luck. And I find it funny because my wife, she's very spiritual in her thinking, and we're both Christians. But like she believes the same thing about snakes. So like I don't think a snake will ever be able to come in my household. And I mean, I don't judge people based on their thinking or beliefs, but like the snake got a bad name, man. They got a bad rap, you know.
I understand that, bro. Absolutely.
Hey, the Old Testament could have picked any animal to trick Adam and Eve, but they picked a snake, and I mean, and now we're here today, and now you make movies about giant ones eating people and thousands of them on planes, and
it's crazy to me. After I've spent probably the last 10 years just researching all different kinds of stuff, different types of species, not just snakes, but definitely snakes, boa constrictors, in particular. And
what is it about boa constrictors you like?
So many things, bro. When you start working with snakes and you're afraid of them,
Yeah,
one of the first things you look for is, I want something tame, or I want something calm, or I want something that you can predict, right? So a ball python gets brought up because it balls up. That's its defense mechanism. Even if it bites you, its teeth are so small, bro, it would barely break your skin. And that's just
don't want to sound
reality.
stupid here. Is that why it's called a balled python? Because it balls up?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
They have royal python, I guess, is their common name, but the ball python has kind of become their hobby name because they just ball up if they feel threatened. I mean, they might strike, but more than likely 90% of the specimens you're dealing with, they're just going to ball up, put their head in the center of their body so that you can't mess with them. That's their most important part, is their head.
Right.
So they just tuck it right into the center of their body and they wrap around it and hope that whatever's threatening them leaves it alone.
Right.
But with boas, they're the exact opposite of that. They're super inquisitive. When it comes to being a keeper and keeping snakes, one of the biggest factors is feeding. You know, you don't want to stress about your animal. So a snake that eats every week or every 10 days or every 14 days, whatever the routine is for it, that's a pretty good sign for the keeper that you're doing things correctly. And
Right.
ball pythons can be super finicky, man. I mean, you can do everything correctly as a keeper and they can be healthy, completely healthy, and just out of nowhere, they'll go off a feed. And
Right.
I'm talking about not for a couple weeks. I mean, I've had ball pythons go off a feed for a year, bro. And
Like
you
not
just
eating for a year.
not a single meal, bro. I offer them every week, just like every other snake, and they won't take for a whole year. And they don't lose weight either, but they don't gain it.
Have you figured out like what was the contributing factor, or was it like a new setup, or?
With that species, across the board, I mean, it's not just me. And a lot of people that work with ball pythons, I mean, you see the same thing. A lot of so like your grow outs, females for ball pythons, they have to be, the general rule, I guess, is like 1,500 grams for them to breed.
Okay.
There's this thing called the 1,000-gram curse. So
Okay.
you got a baby ball python and you're like, oh, you hear the horror stories. They don't eat. They're super finicky. They might only eat mice. You might have to get African soft-furred rats because that's the rat that's from Africa and that's what they eat. And sometimes that's the case. But so you get your little baby ball python and it starts eating just regular rats right away. And every week, no fail, right away, starts growing, and you're like, yeah, man, I don't know what these people were talking about. Then your snake starts getting close to 1,000 grams, 900 grams, and it's still pounding food. And all of a sudden, they just stop. They just stop eating, bro. And you're like,
and it's typically around that 1,000 grams where people experience it.
sometimes, I mean, sometimes you have snakes that are finicky from the get-go.
Right.
But even healthy snakes, I'm saying, like even a finicky snake that's not, it just is insecure about itself or its surroundings. That's a determining factor as to why it's not eating. If a snake, you got it at 70, 80 grams and you got it to 1,000 grams and it stops eating, obviously it's healthy. Obviously, the determining factor is not that it's insecure or anything like that. So they're just notorious for that. That species, they're known for when they hit that mark. I don't know if it's a biological thing and they kind of just slow down, or I really don't know. But with boas, it's the exact opposite, man. You can almost count on them to take food, and when they don't, it's an indicator that either something is wrong, they might be pregnant. So there's a lot of things about the boas that I really prefer.
So let me ask you this question. I know, like, and again, keep in mind, I don't know a whole lot about snakes, just, here and there stuff. So I know a lot of people that like big snakes, they either keep like pythons or they keep boas. So like in your experience, what's the big difference? And I'm not talking like ball python. I'm talking like those big boys. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What are they? Rock pythons and Burmese pythons, and like what are the big differences that like you've noticed, or why you don't keep
honestly,
those?
I've never worked with any of those big species just because of all the permitting and stuff that's required here in the state.
Okay.
But I mean, I know a lot about them. I've been around them. I've seen them in other people's collections. I've fed them. I've experienced them.
Right.
There's no major difference between one of those giant pythons and a ball python as far as behavior. I mean, it's species specific. So it's not because, I don't know. It's hard, bro. It's hard. That's a hard question.
No, you're good.
I guess the major difference between pythons and boas, really, pythons lay eggs. Boas give live birth. There's only a few species of boa, maybe a handful, that actually lay eggs. And I guess that's attributed to somewhere like in the transition of evolution where old world and new world. So the old world snakes are pythons. They lay eggs. New world snakes are more in the South America and stuff like that. They give live birth. And again, as a keeper, that's something that is priceless, man. I mean, you don't have to worry about incubation. You don't have to worry about pulling eggs, the eggs rolling.
Right.
Mom does all that stuff. You know, you get her parameters right in her enclosure, and mom takes care of all that. And 100 and some odd days later, you come out, boom, you got a litter of boas.
All right. I don't want this to sound crazy, but like, are the mothers cannibalistic?
No, boa constrictors are very maternal, man.
Okay.
There are definitely species of snakes and lizards, for that matter, that are cannibalistic.
Yeah.
More so lizards, but I found that a lot of the species of snakes that are cannibalistic are usually egg layers, like colubrids, king snakes, milk snakes. Sometimes if you don't get in there, like you don't track their clutch, and you don't get in there in a good amount of time, they'll get hungry and they'll eat the eggs. I mean, it's food sitting right there. They put all this energy into creating these eggs, and
Yeah.
they don't have the ability to get out of the cage and go find food. So there's food sitting right there. They're opportunistic. They're gonna take it. And in
Yeah.
general, I mean, anything with the name king in it is a cannibal. That's why they call it a king. So king cobras eat snakes.
Yeah.
California king snakes, they eat snakes.
That's a. I mean, I knew that king cobras ate snakes because I've watched countless videos of them eating berms, and I definitely heard about king snakes. And I want to say, what was it? Black racers. Do black racers eat other snakes?
Maybe if
They're,
they get big enough.
they're,
Black racers tend to eat a lot of lizards and toads and stuff like that.
there was another snake that we have here in Florida that eats other snakes. I'll
There's
think
all
about
kinds
it.
of king snakes in Florida.
Okay.
Indigo snakes eat snakes.
Indigo snakes was definitely one. I saw one. Did you see the indigo snake at the Daytona Expo?
No.
Oh man, there was
would have.
There was I think it's an eastern indigo snake. I don't know. I'm no indigo snake, and it was in a little like wood type enclosure with glass. I'm pretty sure it was like one of the organizations that was like raising money for different things.
I was distracted as hell at Daytona, bro. I'm not even gonna lie.
What were you distracted by, man? Friends or animals?
Well, I was there to pick up a snake, and then I just started kind of walking around and talking to my friends, and I didn't really get to look around as much as I wanted to.
What did you pick up?
I'm doing a joint project with one of my friends. I picked up a female Arizona mountain king.
Okay.
Little baby. That's I posted a video on my Instagram of me scenting a little pinky mouse with an anole.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to feed, was that little mountain king.
Why an anole?
That's what they eat. They like there's a lot of smaller colubrids, hognose snakes, some of the smaller king snakes, milk snakes. They eat a lot of lizards and they eat a lot of frogs. But obviously getting a little rodent in there would be a lot more. It speeds the process up. It helps them grow. It gives them more of everything, more protein, more fat.
Right.
But those species of snakes, they're really particular, and sometimes they won't go after a rodent unless it smells like a lizard or a frog or whatever it is that they like to eat. So you gotta.
And I'm guessing it's not economical to try to get healthy brown anoles, or do you just like, hey, there's plenty outside? Right.
If you have a property and you know kind of what goes on around your property, and you know there's no pesticides or anything like that, yeah. You can pick them from outside. But there's people that sell them, but I guarantee you 95% of those people are picking them from outside.
Right. Man, I got more brown anoles than I got birds around me. Like those things are jumping around like wildfire.
Facts.
Man, some of those things get big too. You're like, is that an iguana? But you know, I'm further north, so I don't have to worry about iguanas yet or tegus.
Oh, you're north?
Yeah, bro. I'm in Gainesville, man.
Okay, I thought you were south, bro. I don't know why.
It's all right. I'm originally from Orlando, and at one point my mom lived in Tampa, and now she lives in Clearwater. So I mean, I'm
pretty close to Clearwater.
All up and down I-75, man.
Yes, sir.
No, that's crazy. One thing I wanted to ask you, you said California king snakes. Is there any particular reason you're keeping California king snakes? And like, do you keep other, what would it be, variations or species of king snakes?
So being a boa guy, I didn't didn't dive into colubrids like I did a lot of the boas, the pythons and the boas and stuff like that, because honestly, out of ignorance, bro, I thought they were small and I wasn't really interested in them at first. But the more I was introduced to them, and I mean, you know, just like I do, bro. When you're doing this, things just come up. You know, you meet people,
Right.
whether you're at a show, and you run across an animal, and it just doesn't leave your mind. You think about it, and you think about it until the point where you decide, you know, I'm gonna take the plunge. I'm gonna dive in there. I'm gonna get this and work.
Shit, a lot of times it happens off of a trade. You like, I mean, shit. All right.
I wasn't thinking about that, but that's a really nice deal.
Right. Right.
So with Cal Kings, I was actually given a pair by a good friend of mine, an albino male and a banana albino female. And I was like, you know what? It's a pair. They're adults. I had watched Barchick and all these guys on YouTube with their colubrid seasons and how just pretty much automatic it is, bro. And I had the privilege of going to visit Eugene Bissett at his facility, and he in that one day, man, I learned so much about colubrids and colubrid breeding. It literally changed my perspective on keeping them, and that was what made me actually want to breed them. But when I got that first pair of Cal Kings, I put them in the same tank, and immediately they locked, bro. Within like 30 seconds, they locked, and literally 2-3 months later, I had a clutch of eggs, man. Not even 2 months. I had a clutch of eggs.
How many turned out albino?
All of them.
Oh, that's dope.
So both the male and the female are albino. And albinism is a simple recessive. So if it's on both sides and it's visual, you're gonna get 100% albino all the time.
So what was the other gene you said? Banana? Is that what you said?
Banana. Yep.
So how many ended up banana, if you recall?
I don't remember, bro.
Okay. Did you care about the banana gene, or you just wanted the albino gene primarily?
I just wanted to breed them. I didn't know anything about the genetics at that point. I just wanted to experience it. And when I actually saw that process, I saw them breed just like that, like clockwork, bro. I saw them lay the eggs, came out beautiful, perfect, pearly white. I saw those eggs hatch, and king snakes, actually most colubrids, they actually double clutch. So right after they lay that first clutch, if you feed them up real good for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you can reintroduce the male. He'll go ahead and refertilize the female, and she'll lay you another clutch of eggs within the next month or two.
Is that what happened?
That's what happened. And the first year, actually, I got the second clutch, but I didn't know about the double clutching. So my second clutch was a complete infertile clutch. And I was like, oh, man, you got to be kidding me, bro. But, I mean, you learn your lessons, you know,
right?
Even if it's a hard way.
How many was in a clutch?
Typically anywhere between like 6 and 12.
And how does that differ for
first clutch? I got like 9 or 10 or something like that.
How does that like differ for your boas? Like, how many do they typically lay in a clutch?
Boas typically or somewhere between like 12 and 25. So they're significantly bigger yield. But with the boas, they only go once. They don't double clutch. You know, they only go once. And because they're live bearers, it's just me personally, I like to give them a year off in between. So I don't breed them every year. That's why I have so many boas. I breed them every other year to give them a break and actually let their body recoup so that I can do it for years on end instead of killing them after 4 or 5 seasons.
Is that what typically happens?
I mean, you can definitely overbreed. It depends on the keeping too, you know, but if something is just constantly doing that type of work, it's going to get exhausted.
Gotcha.
The colubrids, they have a lot higher metabolism, and you can see it in the body structure of the snake. After you breed them, everything gets super deflated, really empty. And boas, they hold that deflation a little bit longer. So I just like to give them that period to really get back to what they were or better. I really like to see my female a little bit bigger than what she was that previous round.
Right. Now that makes sense, man. I feel like a lot of people that deal with reptiles and breeding, you know, regardless of what type of reptile it is, you know, And I'll admit that this is something that I suffered from. Like, you see dollar signs, man, you're like, breed, 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 breed. You know, like I have turtles that I'm, measuring their, how big they are. I'm like, fuck, breeding season's over. I guess I got to wait till next year. Like,
Yep.
And I think sometimes we got to take a step back and realize, like, man, sometimes you might have to take that break for what's best for your animal, because there's not very many people that are willing to let one of their animals pass away or die because they were being selfish. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the wild, these animals can go and hide and not be around the opposite gender or whatnot. But like, when you got them in a tank or a setup, like, it's open season.
They can't run. Yep.
Right. No, that's awesome. So, like, do you keep all your males and females separate until it's breeding time, or like, how do you do that?
So my snake room has a lot of racks.
Yeah.
And then I have that bathroom that I let like all my snakes roam around in, but everybody has their own individual tub. And until it's breeding season, I either will take the pair. I like to do it in a neutral space. I don't like to introduce the male into the female, female into the male. So I'll take a neutral space, usually a bigger tub than what they live in.
Okay.
Not too much bigger, but something bigger. And I'll throw them in there and just observe them. Sometimes the female wants nothing to do with it. Boas, they're intelligent, man. That's one of my favorite things about them, is that they, like a monitor, you can see them processing and you can see them thinking about stuff before they do it. And when you start keeping reptiles and you get out of that let me get something tame phase, you want something that's looking back at you and reacting to you,
Right. Let me ask you this. You said you put them in a neutral space, you keep them separate. So, like, how many boas do you have?
Somewhere between 75 and 100 right now, bro. I don't know.
Are they like red tail boas, or you have different types, or
have all different types? Most of them, I guess a majority of them are common boas. So in boa constrictors, the scientific was recently changed. It used to be BCI, so boa constrictor imperator is the common boa. They just changed that this past year to boa imperator. They got rid of constrictor because it was getting kind of confusing. What they call, and everybody that doesn't do boas calls boas red tail boas, common boas. They call them red tails. If you say a red tail boa to a boa keeper and you're referring to a common boa, more than likely you're going to get a 20-minute rant about what an actual red tail boa is, and what you're calling a red tail boa is not a red tail boa. So a real red tail boa is boa constrictor constrictor. They just shortened that now to constrictor, boa constrictor. But those are locality boas. So your Surinames, your Guyanas, some of your Brazilians, stuff like that. Those are boa constrictor, true red tail boas. And they differ from the imperator in size and also in their color.
We talking bigger, smaller?
Bigger, yeah, bigger.
The red tails are bigger?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And their tails are truly red, like a burgundy, a blood red. They have this just like deep, dark redness to them. And the body, like, I feel like their tail is so red that it makes their body pink and purple and all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, so they have a very, very specific look to them. And because it's a locality, it's frowned upon to mix them. So constrictor goes to constrictor. People have done some crazy things like adding albinism into it, but albinism comes from imperator. So technically that's a hybrid. And a lot of people don't like that.
Gotcha. So how do people in the snake world respond to like hybrids and things of that nature? I know how they respond in the turtle world, but I'm curious.
I want to say it's the same with every category. You have your purists who completely shun it and they don't want anything to do with it, and anybody who does it shouldn't be a part of the hobby. Then you have the people who are really into it. And hybrid doesn't necessarily mean two different species. Sometimes you're taking localities and you're crossing them, and that's considered a hybrid. So
Okay.
sometimes it gets really specific. Um, but my stance on hybrids, I, I want to. I like both, bro. I'm a purist, but I love hybridism, and especially
Okay.
if it's a hybrid that happens naturally in the wild. I mean, I'm all for it. I want to see it. I
So
want to see
what
people
might
do
be
new stuff.
what might be an example of that for like boas for you? Like what might be a hybrid that occurs naturally
Oh,
that you like?
oh man, my favorite boa constrictor hybrid is a boa constrictor hybridized with an anaconda. And if you look it up on Google,
Yeah.
um, you'll see a picture of this green boa looking thing with a beautiful stripe down its back. Um,
Okay.
I feel like it adds to both. It adds to the boa, it adds to the anaconda. It has its own look. It looks completely different. Anacondas have really beady scales, um, but they have that really, really distinct green. And boas, really hard to find boas with green.
Right.
Um, I'm talking common boas. Not, I mean, you got your emeralds and stuff like that, but I'm talking common boas with green is pretty much unheard of unless you're getting really crazy. I've seen some like I want to say it's like a hypo T positive leopard that has green in it, but they worked really hard to get that green. But this snake, that hybrid it looks like a boa. It's got that smooth, silky scale look, but it's
Hmm.
green and black.
So
To
like
me, I mean, it's just
is that something that hobbyists are also breeding
uh,
unofficially? No. I like have you ever come across one?
never. I've seen the same picture over and over on Google.
Okay. Interesting. You know what I'm
Um,
gonna ask now, man. It's the one that I always ask you questions about, man. About your anacondas, man.
yeah.
So I know we're in Florida and we have different rules. You can't keep them together. You can't breed them. But like, what's your favorite thing about your anacondas, and which kind do you have? Because I know there's two different types. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. There's
Okay.
greens and there's yellows.
Okay.
I have yellows.
Okay.
They're the smaller of the two.
Okay.
Um, they're not going to get to that crazy 17, 18, 19, 20 foot.
Okay.
They max out probably around like 12 feet, 13 feet maybe.
That
Um,
hybrid you were talking about, is that a green anaconda, I assume, and a boa?
I want to say it was a yellow, but I don't know for sure. So
Oh,
don't
okay.
quote me on that. Um, but the no, my anacondas, man, they're a boa. Technically, anacondas are boas, so they give live birth. They're a New World snake, uh, but they're completely different from my boas. Completely, they they live pretty much. I want to say 60-75% of their time they're in the water,
Okay.
um, and that to me, like to watch that snake, they feed in the water and they feel comfortable in the water. So like to be able to take a snake and put it into a container or a bin or whatever, and not have to put a lid because they feel so comfortable being submerged by the water. To me, that's
Yeah.
so cool. That's so cool.
So like they don't
Uh,
even try to get out when they're in the water for the most part.
nope. You can. I mean, and they might explore, but once they realize that they're in a nice calm body of water, they'll sit all the way at the bottom. They'll stick their head just to the very surface of the water where their nostrils are coming out, and they'll chill there
Yeah.
for hours, sometimes days.
So
Completely
like,
different from any other snake.
is there any like specific way you keep your anacondas versus how you keep your boas? I mean, you said 75, so I'm not imagining you have a Thai Park iguana land for snakes, and you said you use snake racks, but like, is there anything different from how you keep the two?
Well, I used to keep my anacondas the same way I kept the boas,
Okay.
but last year FWC passed a they made a rule pretty much saying that you have to have a grandfathering permit to own that species, which means that you had to own it prior to them putting that species on the restricted list.
Kind of like what they just did with iguanas, right? And tegus.
Correct.
Okay.
I owned them before that period. I was able to prove that. So I had to go through this process. I had to get these cages made, and so they're kept in different cages because of the requirements that were put on us by FWC. But their care requirements aren't really that much different than another boa. You know, I give them a bigger water container. That's the only thing I do different for them, because they will completely submerge. So I give them something that's 3 or 4 times as big as their body.
Okay. So let me ask this. We've talked a lot about snakes. We talked about king snakes and all those things. Oh, you got a question. It says, I know nothing about Don's knowledgeable in blunt-headed tree snakes. My personal favorite may help your fear of snakes as well. Or maybe he's talking to me about my fear of snakes. You know anything about blunt-headed tree snakes?
Not off the top of my head, bro.
Yeah, man. We'll have to check that one out, man. So my question is, you mentioned we've talked about boas, talked about anacondas, talked about king snakes. So how do you balance that out with the lizards you keep and the geckos you keep? Because, I mean, there for a while, it seemed like it was like picture after picture of your geckos and your lizards and your setup. So, like, what's your favorite, bro? Out of everything you keep, what's your favorite?
I have a favorite snake. I have a favorite lizard.
Okay. Shoot them at me.
Gargoyle geckos right now are my favorite lizard. I have a pet Lewisai iguana. Just one. She's my pet. And she takes the cake. I mean, same reason as the boas, super intelligent. Just a different type of lizard. But as far as keeper and breeding and stuff like that, Gargoyle geckos right now take the cake. Genetics really is what it comes down to. When I started doing this on a scale, any type of scale, large, small, whatever it is, I did it for genetics. I'm obsessed with genetics, bro.
Okay.
I like to see the combinations. I like to see what happens. And with geckos, especially the New Caledonian geckos, the genetics is pretty poorly understood. There's a lot of things that come out, but they're not guaranteed. It's not, it's not getting passed on necessarily. It's just popping out. So everything that is unsure to me, I like to dive into it. And I'm popping out all kinds of crazy geckos. So I still don't understand it. So that's why, the obsession is there, bro. The passion is there. And I just keep chasing what I don't understand or what I don't know until I understand it or I have a better grasp of it. With Crested Geckos, just within the last few years, they've been able to kind of expose the 2 actual genetic traits, one being the axanthic, which is a simple recessive, and the other one being the lily white, which is a codominant. But other than that, like the red in the Crested Geckos, the cream in the Crested Geckos, it's not guaranteed. You can have a really, really red animal and the baby may not necessarily come out red. You may have a really nice stripe animal and the baby may not necessarily come out striped. With the gargoyles, I have pairs of stripes that pop out reticulateds. I have reticulateds that give me some banging stripes. So I don't understand it, then I'm going after it, bro.
No, man, that'd be dope, man. I'm gonna keep liking the pictures and looking. I don't know anything about gargoyle geckos, and now I'm about to go look this up. So you said gargoyle geckos would be your favorite lizard, and then snake, is it still boas?
Got to be boa, bro, hands down. For the same reason, outside of what we talked about earlier with the behavior, but the genetics is there, man, and there's so many things that haven't been done yet. Even with ball pythons, which is, I feel, because a lot of people work with them, a lot more has been done. A lot more frontier has been covered, you could say. There's a lot that has been done with the boas, but there's still so many combinations that haven't even been tried. So we don't know what they look like. or only one has come out, and the variability of it is so great that you can, I mean, it's endless, man. And with boas, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, could it be like, what's the typical amount of time it takes for a ball python to reproduce, like years wise?
Probably 3 years for a female, 2 years for a male.
All right, and what about boas?
Hatchling to breeding. For
Yeah.
boas, I would say 3 for males, 4 for females.
Okay,
and
what about
really push it?
What about size difference? What are we talking here?
Size difference, it's with ball pythons, males can breed at like 700 grams, females typically
all right, so like length rather.
3 feet and 4 feet, 5 feet for females. With boa constrictors, it's a completely different ball game, and it depends solely on what type of boa it is. So there's dwarf species of boas, hog island boas, leopard boas, which are from Mexico, blood boas. Those are all dwarf species. So those boas, the males could breed probably around 3 feet, females around 4 feet.
Do you keep any of those?
I do, yeah. My favorite type of boa actually it's a leopard boa.
Okay.
And I got one with me right now. I want to show you.
All right, I'm gonna look because it's not touching me.
It's not in real life.
Right. So, no, man. One thing I'll say, I definitely admire the look of snakes, and I think we've kind of talked about this. Like, the reason I keep terrapins is they look like no other type of turtle, bro. Like, you think turtle, you think little green thing, and like terrapins don't look like that. Like, when I think snake, like there's so many like cool looks of snakes. Like, I definitely admire them. So that's a leopard boa, you said?
Yeah, this is actually a heterozygous for leopard, so it doesn't display the gene.
Okay.
But she does carry it. This particular boa came from Kevin Blumenthal at Blumen Boas, and he is, I mean, he's on top of the leopard game, bro. He's making combos that people haven't seen. But what I was gonna say with the leopards,
where are those found?
Mexico.
Okay.
With the leopards, they have a look to them. So with recessive genes, they either are visual like an albino, or they're heterozygous, which means they look normal but they carry the gene. With leopard boas, the heterozygous have their own look, and when you combine them with other things, the heterozygous comes out a lot of the times with stripes and stuff like that. So it's not, a lot of people kind of don't like the way that hets look because they look normal, right? But with this particular type of boa, the influence on the heterozygous sometimes is prettier than the visual. Sometimes the heads.
So let me ask you this: what does a regular one look like? If that's what a heterozygous one looks like.
Well, so a visual leopard boa is going to be really dark, sometimes almost black. I actually have one on my Instagram that was born in a litter 2 years ago, and he's almost all black. And they have jet black eyes, or super, super dark eyes. When you combine a visual leopard, say, to a normal boa, you're not going to get any leopards. You're going to get all 100% het or heterozygous for leopard, which means all the snakes will look normal, but they're going to carry the gene. With the leopard boa, though, they actually have their own look on the heterozygous. So it's not completely normal. They have darker eyes, and they have a really, really distinct pattern that I don't want to say you can pick the hats out, but you can really tell the difference.
My buddy Jordan, my business partner, he really got started with reptiles through boas. I think he had like IMG boas, and he was saying something he was learning in terms of, or he was wanting to figure out with turtles, were with boas. He said for the most part you could kind of tell the hets for certain genes, just on how they look, and he was interested in seeing if that was the same with turtles. So I mean, it's not anything new that you just mentioned about the hets, but I mean that's pretty awesome. So like when they lay a litter, like it's a lot easier to say, hey, this is actually a het versus this is a regular versus this is a this one is actually showing the gene that we wanted?
If it's like, say it's a het-to-het breeding, and you can't guarantee the het. So if you have a visual on either side, anything that doesn't come out visual is going to be 100% het. You can guarantee it.
Okay.
But if you do a het-to-het breeding, all of the babies are 66% possible het.
Yeah.
Until you prove them, until you grow them out and you breed them and they give you a visual or they don't give you a visual.
So basically taking two hets and breeding them is a lot harder to prove the gene than taking a visual and a het.
It's not harder to prove the gene. I mean, if they carry the gene, it's there and you're going to get it. But if you take two hets and they're hets and you get visuals, you're also going to get a bunch of hets. But because one of the parents wasn't visual, the hets are going to be possible hets. They're going to be 66% possible het instead of 100% het. So you can't guarantee it. That's where being able to pick out the traits comes in handy.
Right. No, that's dope. So what other things do you keep besides your gargoyles, your crested, your boas, and your colubrids? Did I say it right? Colubrids?
Colubrids, yeah.
All right.
I mean, I started with crested geckos, Chinese cave geckos.
Why geckos? Why geckos, man?
I started with geckos because when I first started this, I was still living in my parents' house, and my parents were not going to have snakes, bro.
Right.
It wasn't going to happen.
So did you start with like a leopard gecko back in the day, or?
Well, when I was in high school, I played sports, heavy sports, bro. So my senior year, when I got done with my last season, I asked my parents if I could get a job, and I got a job at Einstein Bagels. And my first paycheck, I took that paycheck to PetSmart, Petco, or something like that, and I bought a 20-gallon tank, and I bought one leopard gecko. Okay. And then a couple weeks later, I ended up going and getting a second leopard gecko, and those two leopard geckos were the only reptiles I had through college.
Okay.
When I graduated college, I got into Cresties a little at a time. I started buying one. I actually bought an adult trio. Okay. So I bought a male and two females, and they started breeding like right away, bro. I started getting eggs, and 3 turned into 50 in a year.
3 crested geckos turned into 50?
Yeah, between buying and hatching out babies and this and that, trading some stuff.
Oh, you're a hoarder, bro. You're a hoarder. That's what it is.
50. And my parents were like, listen, this is awesome and everything. But at that time, they definitely didn't see the business aspect of it. So they were like, this kind of has to go. So I had to make the decision, either go and get my own place or sell the collection. And at the time, it wasn't feasible for me to go and get my own place. I wasn't making enough money. So I had to sell my entire collection, tubs, everything, bro. And I accidentally forgot to bring a couple of the eggs that I was incubating to the deal. And so I got to keep
accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally.
All right. I got you.
So after I got rid of the collection, I started looking for a house. I got a house, and I was sitting in this empty house, bro. No furniture, nothing. Just bare bone floor, and me
just sitting on the cold ass floor.
And I just started envisioning everything, bro.
Yeah.
I said, this is going to be the gecko room. This is going to be the snake room. This is going to be this. This is going to be that. And every year it changes, but I have a snake room now. I have a gecko room now. I actually keep all my pythons in a separate wing than I keep my boas. So my snake room is technically my boa room.
Okay.
And I have
any particular reason?
Yeah. Technically you're supposed to keep, according to a lot of the really, really experienced breeders, you really shouldn't keep boas and pythons together. Some of the diseases that pythons can carry can be really, really lethal to your boas.
Okay.
So God forbid that was actually introduced to the collection. Your pythons would be able to carry it and deal with it naturally. but it's something that would affect your boas to the point of an entire colony going to shit, pretty much.
Right.
You'll start losing your specimens one at a time until you have no boas left.
Right.
You hear the horror stories and stuff. Realistically, I should have them in a different building, but right now I can't. So I just have them as far away as I can.
Yeah, I know some guys that I know that keep, a bunch of different types of animals. Like I met one guy that keeps like day geckos. He keeps turtles, a bunch of different species. He keeps fish, snakes, and basically only what he does for his like cleaning and husbandry and those things is like one species a day. He's like, it takes a while, but like I have to make sure everything is sterilized, and I don't want diseases, transferring from different species, different types of animals. And is that pretty much what you were hinting at? Like, you can't go and hold your python and then be like, let me go hold the boa right away. Like,
I don't. Yeah, no, absolutely not. When it comes to the snakes, because that's kind of why I separated them. So it's kind of a natural barrier for me. When I'm in the boa room, I'm dealing with boas. When I'm in the python wing, I'm over there dealing with pythons. So it kind of helps me not do it, not mix them or touch them or this or that. I'm a freak about cleaning my hands too, bro. It has nothing to do with reptiles. I'm just constantly washing my hands. So it's just habit to me. I used to work at a liquor store, so I was constantly handling money. I worked for the sheriff's office. I was a child protection investigator for a while.
okay.
So I've been into
that's a job a lot of people can't do, bro.
Yeah, it was a tough job. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. Not for. It's just a lot. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
You're overworked, but you just. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm so crazy about cleaning, because over my experiences, you kind of see how other people live and how other people keep their animals, and sometimes it's not clean. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. They don't take that care. They don't separate their animals. They don't clean their hands in between sessions. And sometimes that's fine. If you're clean across the board, sometimes it's okay. But to me, I would rather just wash my hands and be sure. I would rather just keep them separate and be sure. I don't want to have an animal die and be questioning, if I had these separate, would that have happened? So to me, it's a peace of mind thing. But as far as husbandry, my routine is crazy, bro. I don't go by species. I do water and I do food. So I do a water day and I do a food day. I want to make sure that everybody in the house gets water. I want to make sure that everybody in the house gets food, and the food gets broken up into snakes and then lizards. So my lizards tend to have a lot faster metabolism. Snakes don't eat every day. Some of them don't even eat every week. So your lizards, you're feeding more often. So my feed days tend to go more towards lizards, and my watering days, because I'm opening the tubs and stuff like that, tends to be more my snake days, because I'm already in there. If I'm changing the water, I might as well clean them. And I set a day out of the week to feed for the snakes. But the lizards is more of a constant thing.
No, that makes sense. I'm gonna go ahead and share this comment now that we got a second. This is my buddy Jonte.
Jonte, what's up, brother? I've been following him for a long time, bro.
Nah, man, he has some cool stuff, bro. I'm glad that I got linked up with him. Hoping to get him on the podcast soon. But yeah, man, some of those tegus and different things he works with.
Aquafina, bro, that tegu's unreal, bro.
Yeah, bro, that's insane, man. I'm curious now. Not to get into your business or push too much, but like, how big is your house, like room wise? Are we talking?
It's not that big, bro. 1,400 square feet. It's a 3-bedroom house.
Okay, I mean that's about the size of my house. So like, you have your boa room, you got your python wing. Is there a lizard room? I'll be honest
with you, bro. I got my master bedroom and my master bathroom.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Everything else is animals.
Everything else is animals.
Hey, let me share this real quick. This is what he said, man.
Hell yeah, bro.
Hey, it sounds kind of like you ever seen how the dude that runs Turtle Source has his house?
Yeah, Mark Cantos. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So like that, you're like that. Like it's your house,
I'm,
bro. Like
yeah, yeah.
that's
It's
dope.
like that, bro.
My wife would
I'll
kill
have
me.
to do a little tour or something, man.
Yeah, man. One day when I'm down that way, I got to get you on my YouTube channel. I'm trying this YouTube thing out.
Let's do it, bro.
That'd be fun. We'll link up, get some pizza afterwards or something.
Hey, I'm down.
So this
Absolutely.
is something I'm curious about. Are your two terrapins the only turtles you keep?
Uh, they were well. I had 4 terrapins originally. I had a
Yeah.
roommate. He moved out, so I had to get rid of 2 of them because
Okay.
FWC was coming all the time, checking on the anacondas and whether the cages were done or not.
Yeah.
Um, so I had to get rid of the 2. Um, and this past year, before all the COVID, there was a Repticon in February in Tampa, and I brought a couple of those banana albino king snakes. And one of the turtle guys approached me about doing a trade, and I
Okay.
traded one of my kings for 2 spotted turtles. I think we talked
Oh,
about
I
them.
did see that. I did see that. That's my second favorite species, bro. That's what I commented on it. How do you
Yeah,
like them so far?
bro, they're amazing. They're amazing.
I think it's interesting, and not to jump in it too much, but like they're probably almost as beautiful as terrapins in the fact that they stay small, they like shallow water, and there's not these ridiculous regulations on them in Florida like there is for terrapins and box turtles. Like, I think it's a pretty underrated species for people.
I think a lot of people don't know about them, bro.
I definitely didn't know about them. Like when most people say spotted turtle, most people think of Indian spotted turtles or the Hamatoni, and I'm
Yeah,
like, I think the North American spotted might be a little bit cooler, and they don't get the size of a damn
they're so
coffee
clean,
table.
man.
Yeah, man. How old are they? Are they like yearlings now, months, or what are we talking? Well, you said February.
Uh, yeah, I got them in February, so they were probably a couple months old by then.
Okay.
So maybe coming up on a year.
We got to get you a turtle wing, man. Any species, snakes, turtles, lizards, things you like, or you want to get into and you're not into yet?
Um, I've been getting into a lot of stuff through the people that I'm working with, a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
So we've been getting acquiring a lot of different species, just looking to expand.
Right.
This past year, we got into dumpy tree frogs.
Okay.
We've gotten into a lot of colubrids. A friend of mine picked up some blue beauties, and we actually hatched a couple eggs. We picked up some Mexican black kings. So we're getting heavy into the colubrid game. We're gonna get into the frog game. Really everything, bro. I love this stuff. Um, it's not just the animals; it's the process. Um, you don't like roaches, but I love roaches, bro. I love to buy a little colony of 20 some odd roaches and turn it into 20,000. To me, it's fascinating, bro. Procreating and watching something become a colony, to me, it means you're doing something right.
Right. No, that's something. I can't remember who told me, but it's like when your animals are breeding regularly that you're doing something right. And like
Absolutely.
when you have off seasons and certain things of that nature and they're unplanned, like you might need to reevaluate the way you're keeping. Like, of course, there's something always that could happen, but like happy animals breed, they eat, they hibernate if that's what they do, and things of those
No,
nature.
they do what they do. You know,
Right,
we're also we, I'm always posting monitors. It's my guy
right,
Joe, my friend Joe. He's doing the Argus monitors heavy. I mean, captive born, and these guys are coming out with a lot of variation, different colors, different patterns, stuff that you really don't see in the Argus world. Argus, even up until this year, they were still being imported before all of this virus stuff.
yeah,
Um, I've never seen Argus monitors like this, uh, and it's fascinating, man, to see. You have when you're introduced to a species that specimen that you see, it becomes a standard for what you think it is. So
100%.
when you're a part of something and that something just blows that standard away, it's a beautiful thing, bro. And to know that this is just the beginning genetically, and to be able to just to watch it progress, there's nothing like it.
You had mentioned. Oh, go ahead, bro.
Species besides the Argus, roughneck monitors. We got a pair of them trying to breed right now. Black throat monitors.
Okay.
We're getting into it.
I was gonna say, I don't know a whole bunch about monitors. They've always been kind of cool. I think they're like that animal, like they're too big for regular lizard keepers to keep. And then it's like, all right, I don't want to keep a gator, but I can keep a monitor, you know? What I was gonna say is, do you follow Inquisitive Raptors
No.
on Instagram? All right, so he works with a bunch of.
You got to send me all these names, bro.
He works with monitors, and I think he was on Camp Kennan, maybe, I don't know. He was on something, and I found him, and he agreed to be on the podcast. So I'm excited to talk monitors with him. So what kind is that?
This is one of Joe's captive bred Argus monitors. This is one of this year's hatchlings. So
when did that, like, estimated, when did that hatch?
It was late last year. So it was October of last year that it was born.
So soon it'll be like a year old.
Yeah, it's coming up on a year, probably in the next couple months.
So like, what's max adult size?
For males, probably 5.5, 6 feet. For females,
it's like a dog.
Maybe 3.5, 4.
That's awesome, man. I gotta admit, you're the first, one of the first guests to actually, pull out your live animal on the show. No, that's definitely awesome, man. I'm curious, and this will be my last question before we end for tonight. You mentioned that now this is your full-time gig. Like, what's your main means of, making sales and making money and supporting yourself? Like, are you a Facebook guy? Are you a reptile show guy?
Well, right now, I did my first reptile show in January, and I've been trying to book as many of them as I can. I'm enjoying the shows. It's kind of everything. A friend of mine has a website, so he's been posting some of the stuff that I have for sale on the website. I post on Instagram. I really try not to post for sale. I just don't like to use my Instagram for that. Maybe one day, if somebody inquires about it, great. I have my phone number on there so that they can do that. But the Instagram is more for me to share. I just want to share what I'm doing with everybody.
Do you use like Morph Market or anything like that?
So my friend has a Morph Market. We're working on getting a Morph Market with the Reptidon's name on it. But for right now, we're just, we're using my friends. Gotcha.
How many reptile shows have you done since, the whole coronavirus thing hit in March?
Yeah, I want to say since March, I've probably done maybe 4 or 5 of them.
Are you just doing the ones in Florida, or are you leaving the state?
I was planning to leave the state, but when everything happened, I've just been staying local. I did Tampa. I did Orlando. I did a second Tampa. We did Pembroke Pines, which was our first show in January. We did a West Palm Beach.
Which was your favorite?
So far, the Orlando show was pretty cool. It wasn't as big as I expected, but it was a pretty cool show.
All right, which was the biggest of the shows
that I've done?
Yeah,
or that I went to?
Either one.
Daytona is the biggest that I went to. The biggest show that I did, I guess, was probably Tampa.
Okay.
This most recent Tampa was pretty big.
I've never been to the Tampa show, and so that's why I'm curious. I've been to the Orlando one. That's the one I grew up going to at the fairgrounds. It's still at the fairgrounds, right?
Yep.
So yeah, like I grew up going to that one, and I mean, as a 10-year-old, you're like, holy shit! Like, look at all this stuff that's here. But then you go to Daytona, and you're like, whoa, right? And then like the one in my city here in Gainesville is like, I mean, if you ever decide to come up, that'd be awesome. We'll link up.
Oh, I'm gonna
But
do it, bro. Is it a 1 day?
It's a 1 dayer, bro.
All right.
It's nothing. It's nothing super spectacular in comparison to some of those shows. I mean, we're in a small college town, you know, like there's a good amount of reptile keepers here because, you know, we got UF, and so you got the herpetologists from UF and the different invasive labs and things. But like compared to some of those big cities where people are like going in for an entire weekend, I'm like, dang, man, I need to start going back to these shows. I mean, like for me as a turtle guy, I think like turtles are probably like 3rd or 4th on the list of like things you commonly see. Like you're gonna see, you know, your ball pythons, you're gonna see your leopard geckos,
guaranteed.
And then you get further down, and it's like turtles. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, man. We'll have to
make it a staple, bro.
Got to, man. Hey, you got to get you a table at the Daytona show next year, man. Gotta.
It's definitely in the works, bro. Definitely, and we'll be in the next Gainesville whenever that is, bro.
I think our show normally February. We were like the week before Tampa, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
Sometime or April.
We'll definitely be at the next one.
No, man, I appreciate it. We had a great show today, bro. I appreciate you coming on. I'm glad to finding out more. Typically at the end of the podcast, I like to give, you know, to people that have websites and, you know, make sales and anything. This is your chance. You know, how can people follow you? How can they contact you? What do you have for sale? Anything you want, bro. This is your shot. This is your time.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as far as getting in touch with me, Instagram is probably the best way. At Reptidons. There's a phone number in my bio. That's my cell phone number. It goes directly to me. You can reach me on Facebook at my personal name, Jessel Nieves. I have a Facebook for the Reptidons, but I really don't use it as much. I'm really on Instagram.
Bro, you got to link your Instagram to your Facebook page, bro.
All right.
So, like, if you need help, let me know. But, like, I only share to my Instagram, and since it's linked, it automatically shares to the Facebook page. It's amazing. All right.
Yeah, I'll have to do that then.
But go ahead, bro. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
No, that's fine.
So what do you got for sale, man? You got anything for sale, or you just sell out so quick? You're like Walmart?
No, I mean, I'm constantly trying to have stuff hatching. Right now, I have some albino cow kings for sale. I have a hypo Boa that I had this year, that was born this year. He's the last of the litter. So stuff does go quick, but I mean, I like to hold some stuff too. I don't like to go to the shows empty-handed. We got a bunch of bearded dragons right now that we hatched out a couple months ago. All kinds of stuff. Gargoyle geckos, crested geckos, those are pretty much a constant.
Yeah.
I got 6 ball pythons that just hatched a couple weeks ago. I want to get them feeding a little bit, but they're pastel orange ghost and orange ghost complex. And then I got 9 more that are hatching. I did a collab with one of my friends. So probably within the next 8 days, I'm going to have 9 more ball pythons hatching.
Any idea what those are like? What genetically are they supposed to be?
So the male was a pastel Enchi orange dream, and the female was a pastel. So possible super pastel, Enchi orange dreams, pastel orange dreams, Enchi orange dreams. Anything orange dream is a win in my book, bro.
No, I mean, I don't even know what that looks like. So you got me going to do research now because, hey,
There's a guy named Ozzy Boyd. He's the orange dream king, bro. Look him up on Instagram. You won't regret it. Will love you for the night.
We're gonna have to share Instagram followers information so we can, you know, get our what do we want to call it? Reptile porn, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, like what you enjoy looking at on IG. We got to get that up, man.
Feed right, yeah.
Right, bro. Right. You don't want to be looking at trash.
Nope.
But all right, guys, we are at the end. We appreciate you guys for joining us. Hopefully next week, my buddy Ed will be back. But if he's not, we're still going to support him because he's being a dad right now and doing great things. So this has been What the Shell podcast with the Reptidon. And we will see you next week, guys. Good night.
Appreciate it, brother.